You wake to a darkness scattered with stars unlike any you have known, and to a stillness so profound it seems to belong to the spaces between the stars themselves. Through the long window beside you, there is no planet, no familiar sun, only the deep and endless night and the countless points of distant fire burning steady and clear. You lie still for a moment, watching that unfamiliar sky, and a feeling moves through you that no human had ever felt until your age. The feeling of waking somewhere truly beyond, past the edge of the only home our species had ever known. You have woken in the first human city built beyond the solar system, among the stars themselves. You rise and step outside, and the world opens around you into a curving valley of meadow and grove, a river winding through it, rising up and over your head until it vanishes into the soft band of light along the great vessel's axis. It is a turning world, a habitat of the kind humanity learned to build long ago, but it is not in orbit around any planet or moon. It hangs alone in the vast dark between the stars, having crossed the unimaginable gulf that separates one sun from the next, carrying its rivers and forests and people farther than any human had ever gone. You realize that you have woken farther from Earth than the whole long history of your species had ever reached, in the first true home humanity made beyond its native sun. You step onto a path, and the air meets you warm and clean and alive, scented with green growing things, and the wonder catches up with you slowly. This warmth, this air, this whole living valley exists in the deepest dark there is between the stars, where no sun shines near enough to give either light or heat, where there had been nothing at all but cold and silence, and the long emptiness since the beginning of time. Everything here was carried across that emptiness or made within it by people who refused to accept that even the gulf between the stars, vast almost beyond comprehension, was a barrier humanity could not cross. A small craft drifts up to meet you, silent as a thought, and you step inside. It lifts and joins a gentle current through the open air of the vessel, weaving past others without ever slowing or touching, guided by a single shared mind. There is no pilot and no waiting. You watch the green valley slide past below, and you understand that the people who crossed the dark between the stars carried none of the old chaos with them. Across a journey longer than any in human history, they brought only what was worth bringing into the deep. The craft carries you toward the vessel's edge, and you discover how a city lives in the starless dark, far from any sun. The warmth and the light here are wholly made, carried as a precious cargo across the long crossing, and renewed endlessly within the vessel. A hearth kindled by human hands in the one place in all creation where no natural fire burns. You understand that humanity did not find this warmth waiting, as it had on the moons and around the distant giants of its own sun. It made the warmth itself and carried it across the void, a small bright spark of life born through the greatest darkness there is. You rise to a wide commons where children have gathered, and you wait for a school and find only wonder. One child is shaping a model of the Great Crossing, the long voyage between the suns that brought their city here. Another is learning the new sky, the unfamiliar stars seen from this place no human stood before. A patient presence guides each of them along the thread of their own curiosity, and you realize these children were born beyond the solar system, beneath a sky their distant ancestors never saw, and find it as ordinary as you once found the stars of home. You pass people as you go, and you notice their unhurried ease, the quiet pride of those who live at the very frontier of human reach. You meet the eyes of one who seems no older than 40, and somehow you know they have lived 3 centuries or more, that they were among those who began the Great Crossing and lived to see its end, who watched their native sun shrink to a single star behind them and a new sun grow slowly brighter ahead. The long life made the crossing possible, you realize, for only a people who could live for centuries could undertake a voyage that spanned them. If this city beyond the sun is stirring something in you, a sense of how far the human spirit might one day reach, take a moment to subscribe and journey onward with us. Every world we explore together is a reminder of what waits inside us still. The more of us who dare to imagine it, the closer it draws. Now, let the journey continue. You rise toward the still heart of the vessel, where the spin falls away and you float, and a great window opens onto everything beyond. And the sight fills you with an awe deeper than any you have known. Ahead, brighter than all the other stars, burns a new sun, a star that is not the sun of Earth, growing slowly nearer across the years, and around it, faint and promising, the glimmer of worlds that no human had ever named. You understand that this city is not adrift without purpose. It is arriving, drawing near to a new sun and its waiting worlds, the first of humanity to cross the gulf between the stars and reach another star's light. You drift to the glass and you see that your vessel is not alone. Other great ships move through the dark around it, a small fleet of turning worlds that made the crossing together. And ahead, near the new sun, you see the first faint lights of those who arrived before, the beginnings of human presence around a star that is not the sun of home. You realize you are witnessing the most profound expansion in all of human history. The moment our species ceased to belong to a single sun and became at last a people of the stars themselves. You turn then, and you search the dark behind you for the sun of Earth, and you find it at last, only one among the countless stars now, a single point of light no brighter than its neighbors, impossibly far away. Somewhere in that distant glimmer is the cradle, the world where everything began, where the first of your kind looked up at these very stars and wondered if they could ever be reached. People here speak of it with a tenderness deeper than any, for it is not only their first home, but the first home of all humanity, the small blue world from which this entire journey began. And you understand the deepest truth of this place. Humanity did not abandon the cradle. It grew across ages and worlds until it could carry the spark of itself even here, beyond the sun, to a new star and a new beginning. You return to the turning valley as the soft light dims toward evening, and people gather along the bright water to share food and slow conversation, the unfamiliar stars wheeling slowly beyond the windows, the new sun bright among them. You find a place on the grass and sit, watching the curve of your traveling home rise above you, glittering with the lights of dwellings, and beyond the glass the deep dark and the promise of the new sun ahead. And it settles over you, the weight of where you are. None of this was promised. A human city beyond the solar system, a living world carried across the unimaginable gulf between the stars to a new sun and waiting worlds, was the most distant dream of all, a thing the people of the cradle could barely let themselves imagine. They stood on a single small world, unsure they would even survive their own beginning, and looked up at stars they believed they could never reach. Yet, here you sit, beyond the sun, among those very stars, a living spark of Earth carried farther than all the ages before had ever dared to hope. You lean back into the cool grass and look up past the hanging river to the new sun burning bright among unfamiliar stars, and the old sun lost somewhere in the dark behind you. This is what we became when we refused to let even the gulf between the stars be the end of us. And somewhere in the quiet, you understand that this is not an ending, but the greatest of beginnings. That a whole galaxy of stars now waits ahead, and that for humanity, even here beyond the sun, the journey is only beginning.